All right, folks, welcome to the very first episode of Yes and Ask Me. My name is Rick, and I wanted to throw together some of Bear Stage's most senior level players and ask them topics about improv, anything at all. I wanted to pick their brains. I wanted them to share their experiences, their knowledge, and I wanted to have these great discussions online. That way we could all share in this experience. Today's episode is called Head, Heart, and Wildcard Players, and I'll be explaining what that is during. We'll get one of the panel members to explain what that is exactly. And I first want to introduce Tina Jackson, who is the owner, proprietor of the Bear Stage Theater here in San Antonio. Hi, Tina. Hey, can you give us a little bit of a background? How long have you been doing improv?
I've been doing improv for 20 years. I started in the year 2000 when I was in high school, and I spent 10 years training and learning a bunch of stuff in Chicago, and I've been in San Antonio. We opened Bear Stage about 3 years ago.
That is fantastic. And so, Tina, for a lot of people that aren't familiar with all of us, you are, again, the owner of Bear Stage, but you're also one of the teachers as well.
Yeah, I own the theater. I teach, I pay all the bills. I do all the fun and not fun stuff. Oh, and also I perform.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for joining us here. I appreciate it.
Hey, absolutely a pleasure.
Our next panel member is Kevin McCormick. Kevin, would you, if he's, there you go. Kevin, I know you to also be a senior member of the Bear Stage community. I've seen you perform many, many different times. Can you give us some background about your improv experience?
Just being a theater dork back in high school, and just really enjoying those games, watching Whose Line Is It Anyway all the time. And then finding this after about 15 years of doing nothing. Yeah, and I like it.
That's good. That's really important. All right, our third panel member is also a senior member of the Bear Stage community here in San Antonio, and that is Clint Taylor.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going, Clint?
It's going good.
Good. So, Clint, I also know you from the Bear Stage community here in San Antonio. I also know that you, not only are you a performer at Bear Stage, but you're also a teacher as well.
I've been teaching for a year now, along with a little bit of TA. Yeah, started off TA, and then now I'm a full-fledged teacher. Nice. And then, unlike the other panel members, I did not get started in high school. I never did anything close to theater, and then 2 years ago got involved with Bear Stage and absolutely hooked.
That's fantastic. For everybody here that doesn't know all of us, I am also a performer at Bear Stage. I took classes there as well, and that's how I know these folks. Now, Tina, I want to ask you some questions about what it is to be a head player, a heart player, or a wild card player. What do these terms mean, Tina?
There are different terms that people use to sort of help define what kind of player people are. There's a book out right now about it's Ninja Pirate something that I enjoyed the theory of, but this is just how I have colloquially sort of defined different kinds of improvised players as head player, heart player, and X factor or wild card. I sort of alternate those terms, but in general, I sort of define head players as people who are thinking their way through the scenes, who are sort of like intelligently seeing what moves people are making, and they know from an intellectual standpoint what should come next, where the story is going, or what would be the smartest or funniest move to make. Heart players, I think, generally rely on an emotional connection between their characters and sort of find the next move from the moment directly before it. And X factors and wild cards, I think generally don't fit in either one of those molds very typically, and their moves come from all over the place in a way that I think head players and heart players, which are a little bit more typical, just have no idea what to anticipate. And I think they're some of the most fun people to watch on stage, and I don't think it's something that can be taught. I don't know if you can teach it, but
No, you can't.
trying.
Spoiler alert. No.
That's what I'm working on though. I want to learn,
We're
because if you
working
can teach how to play a head and how to play a heart, you have to be able to teach how to play an X.
Yeah.
I think it's possible. Yeah.
We're gonna get into that later.
There's some of these theory discussions into like teaching techniques and stuff like that. But one reason I think I'm on this panel is I am a tried and true heart player. I find my next improv move from directly what came before it. I'm looking at moves. I think over the course of the 20 years that I have been performing, I think I can play head a little bit more than I used to. I think naturally I follow a little bit more of an emotional core to my characters, to my acting, to find the next improv move. But I find myself doing some bigger picture stuff as well, especially as a teacher, is to look at the big picture of the scene and see what's missing and what needs to be inserted or what comes next after we do a slow two-person scene, like a grounded two-person scene, to do something a little wackier, pick up the mood, pick up the, like to look at what's missing from a scene or a show and insert that based on what you can see instead of what you feel.
So you're saying that that element right there is the head part of the performer versus the heart part?
Yeah, I think so. I think head players will typically be thinking through their scenes and trying to figure out the right move to make, if that makes sense. That there is a right or a wrong is the misconception perhaps, but that head players, maybe this is more of a Clint question, frankly. Clint, why don't you explain life from a head player perspective?
Yeah, I'm not in my head enthusiastically. I think that head players do think that there is a right and a wrong move to make. I'm often in my head about what is the right thing to do here, and that comes from experience, especially. So now at this point, 2 years in, I have more understanding of what a right move is in improv rather than feeling it from my gut in terms of what I should be doing.
Do you think you're more of a head now than you used to be then? Is that what
No. I think I'm a better head now than I used to be.
Oh,
It's always a head. Yeah.
So Clint, the way you described it as something when you talk about finding the right move, the right choice. It sounds very analytical to me. Are you processing this in the middle of the scene?
Yeah, and that's something that's interesting to me because a player I play a lot with, Matt Hall, is also a head player to me. But what's interesting to me is that he almost blacks out in scenes and he doesn't remember the scene as well as I do. And I remember almost every single move. And so I think that there's an analysis going on from both of our perspectives. But maybe like adrenaline or something is what like instills it in my memory or makes it fall out of his memory.
I was gonna say, yeah, it could exactly be the same source that makes you remember everything could make Matt forget everything.
But yeah, absolutely. I'm analyzing, and I continue to analyze after this show is well over, from a head perspective.
Okay, interesting. So Kevin, we've already identified a head player and a heart player. Does that make you the X Factor wild card?
I guess if there's 3 variables and 2 of them are already filled, so I guess I'm the one that can't be defined. I'm the one who doesn't really look at what's going on in a scene logically or analytically, or thinks about what characters are feeling. I just go in and I'm just like, oh, well, I'm a German scientist, like before the scene even starts. So then if somebody comes up to me with some line, I was like, oh my God, Rachel, you look so great today. And I'll be like, oh, well, that was the chemical enrichment facility. And I'll just try to find a way to make that work. And I like controlled chaos. And I
like how you controlled chaos.
I let my partners control chaos because they're also very skilled players for sure. but I can see why X Factors would be a colossal pain in the ass to deal with when you're first starting.
So just to be,
I think
go on,
it
Tina.
can be really intimidating for sure.
Oh yeah.
Because I think I think the insecurity of all improvisers or all people who start with an improv class is, I want to be funny. I hope that I'm funny. And I think wildcards are so effortless at it that it is intimidating to head and heart players to figure out how to be as funny as somebody who has it so freaking naturally. That you, Kevin, as a performer in your level 1 class would have intimidated the hell out of me as a level 1 player as well.
And that's at the level where you think you have to be funny all the time.
It is, yeah. That's another misconception, but I think in general, typically I think the wild card, again, these are all just generalizations and nobody has to fit into any of these boxes. But typically just sort of find like these really interesting ways to look at things that head and heart players are like, why didn't I think of that? And X Factors are just out there, just doing their thing, and we're all just trying to keep up with.
So for background, me and Kevin got into improv class at the exact same time. We grew up through Bear Stage together, and I wasn't intimidated by Kevin. To be completely honest, I was annoyed, maybe might be the right word, but like I just couldn't. I struggled with playing with Kevin for I think our first 2 levels together, and then it finally clicked on how to play with each other. And also something that clicked in level 3 or around that time was like both of us got to be better players and more experienced. But the X factor, and the reason I bring this up is as a teacher, I've seen X factors come up through the program too. And I see that exact same kind of path where I don't think it's intimidation, it's difficulty with getting on the same page.
Right, where Clint logically sees a move, 3 steps ahead. Evan's moves are so far in such a different direction that I guess it would be really frustrating to feel like you know what's coming and have Kevin or another X Factor sort of take it in a completely different way.
Yeah, and I'm here to just throw a hand grenade in the middle of the scene that you've already planned out for 6 beats. For
me, as a seasoned improviser, I appreciate that because I loathe at this point doing a typical roommate scene or a first date or what. Like I've done those scenes. I've done so many of them at this point. I love the hand grenade. I would love for you to show up to our first date as a German scientist, and I would have no idea what to do with that. But I love the challenge of having to figure it out. Like, this is the moment we're in right now, and whatever you're doing, I'm going with you, but I would never come up with it.
But like you're going to justify how this date happened, and I also have to justify why a German scientist is on Tinder. So I mean,
like, maybe I would be justifying that, and Tina would be reacting to it.
I would just be so flabbergasted to be like, my sister hooked me up. I would find some emotional connection to figure out why I would be on this date with a German scientist.
Like, well, you see, we are recruiting people for intelligence, and we have picked off all of our boxes. And, yeah, so I mean, I guess that's why people like me aren't shunned by the community for not being team players.
You bring so much. There's like such a diverse way of thinking about improv, and so I think sometimes it's probably unfair to fit people into head, heart, and X Factor sort of boxes. But as a teacher, I really appreciate it because I think it helps me to figure out where all my students' heads are at, how they're thinking about improv, how they're approaching it, what maybe their frustrations are, what are typical head player frustrations. I'm having trouble making a decision because I can't figure out the right thing to do, and addressing that issue is a head player issue, especially in like level 1 and 2, like young improvisers really trying to figure out how to do this correctly. And heart players really just finding themselves going down little rabbit holes where it's like, I have to justify this. I have to to feel this depth of emotion. My scene partner's going this way, but I feel like I have to ground it here in this reality. I have to remember gravity in all of this, and you know what I mean. I think head players can get really stuck sometimes too. And Wildcard, do you find yourself getting stuck on stage, Kevin? I can't even tell you what a Wildcard stuck movement would be because I haven't experienced it myself.
Oh yeah, well no, it's like sometimes I have to ask myself, does this scene make sense? Like I'm in Antarctica in a research base making shrimp sandwiches on the floor, and it's like, okay, how do I escalate this scene? Or what was this person's name? That's about all the analysis that I do in a scene. It's so from my gut, which is why I say you can't really teach it.
Yeah, I think it would be much harder to teach, but Clint and I are still going to try to figure it out.
Yeah. No, it's not impossible. It will happen.
Study my brain after I
analytical. He's going to figure it out.
Yes, we need
this is the thought I've had about heads and hearts, is that hearts, I feel like heads have to learn how to play as hearts, because hearts are doing improv the right way, in that in the definition of a heart, they're reacting to the previous statement. And that's exactly what you're supposed to do in improv. You're supposed to react to the present moment. And so I think the people that have it the hardest, which is also the majority, are the heads, because there's a saying that is, you're stuck in your head, and nobody ever gets stuck in their heart.
Oh, leave me in high school until it's not true.
Well, so Clint, have you been trying to get out of your head? Have you been trying to like be a heart player, to be
absolutely, and an X? Yeah, that's one of my motivations for proving that you can teach X, is because I want to become more of an X, and also, yeah, absolutely trying to become more of a heart player. And oddly, I started doing a show, Designated Driver, where the requirement is I have to get drunk before the show. And in that show, I felt like such a heart. I totally dissolved out of my head, and I was just in the moment reacting to what was happening around me.
Right, yeah. And I was in that show with you, and I remember in the moment thinking, where is this Clint coming from? Like, you were playing so differently than you typically do, because you're not somebody who drinks before shows. But in the show where we drink, that you were playing really differently, and I wonder if it was just like whatever, the alcohol does to like numb your senses or whatever.
And yeah, I mean, scientifically, it's,
and found yourself a heart player all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's inhibitions is what alcohol gets rid of. And so maybe that's the difference between a head and a heart at the neurological level, is that a heart.
I'm drunk all the time.
Naturally drunk, yeah. You have less inhibitions, or like you're not so hung up, you're not so blocked by your inhibitions.
Sure. And for sure, I would say that I have been. I started, like I said before, I started improv in 2000 when I was in high school. I was a 16-year-old girl, and in high school as a 16-year-old girl, I don't know if you know this, men, you got a lot of inhibitions. There's a lot of people looking at you and expecting you to be a certain way, and I think that's high school in general. But I would say that even though I started improv in high school, I wasn't good until I reached college, and I was able to sort of reset who I am and what I expect from myself in a college environment where I was completely separated from my previous self, and that I was able to sort of reset and be a little bit looser. So I do think that really aided my improv growth. And even, probably the guys on my high school or my college improv team would say, yeah, you're good, but, hopefully they would say I'm better now. But again, it's just, some of it comes with some experience and being able to relax a little bit in your scenes and just know with confidence that you have the skill to get out of or into whatever situation you want to. So that when my inhibitions go down, I really can just sit in the true improv of the moment and react to whatever just happened instead of worrying about what comes next.
So Tina, are you saying that early on in your improv career, because
what I'm saying, yeah.
But early on, because you had those inhibitions, you were more of a head player back then, and you transitioned into a heart player as you became more comfortable?
Yes, I would say that I'm a very natural heart player, but I was very in my head for a number of years while I was trying to figure some of this stuff out and worrying about looking stupid or doing an accent that I wasn't too familiar with, but I got as a suggestion in a short form scene. And now I have to be a German scientist or what have you. I was worried about doing it right. And so I therefore was holding myself back quite a bit by not letting myself fully fall into any one moment. So I would say I was in my head for a number of years. Whether that made me a head player at the time, I'm not positive. But as I have evolved as an improviser over 20 years, we hope we evolve, is that I found myself way more of a heart reacting to each moment.
Interesting. Kevin, Clint, do you guys see yourselves actually transitioning ever into a whole different kind of box?
Hmm.
Clint, I know that, I mean, you're trying right now. Do you,
Yeah.
now, here's my thing, Clint, when you try to be a heart player or an X player, do you want to leave behind being a head player and never come back to that life?
Good question.
Wow. Good question.
Yeah.
I don't, man, I think I would be a better player if I played as a heart versus being a head. However, there are definitely benefits to playing as a head player in terms of seeing the big picture, because I'm not reacting to the moment. I'm reacting to like everything that led up to that moment, and then also trying to do a callback to 4 scenes before. And so, yeah, head players have, yeah, you're right. No, and one, I don't think I'm going to completely transition to a different type of player. I'm a head, and I'm going to be a head just because of the 29 years I've had leading up to this moment have molded me into a head player. It's my personality on and off stage. I think that answers your question. Was there,
for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I think you're essentially trying to expand and broaden your skills, and if you can stay being a head player, become a better head player, but also incorporate elements of heart and X factor in there too. It just makes you a better player.
Yeah, I was going to say too that my in general, when I was more a heart before I started really working on some of the headier stuff as far as callbacks and narrative and big picture stuff in the show, that I would say I found myself in more of a support player role. Like I wasn't the lead character in any scene. I didn't really take a ton of initiative. I mostly sat in a support role. And I think head players are sort of the scene leaders. They're the ones who, because they sound so much like they know what they're doing, I think it's easy for heart players to follow head players. So I think in general, especially, I mean, I think the goal, and I think sort of what Clint was talking about, is becoming a more well-rounded improviser by incorporating things that don't come as naturally, right? Like we sort of have a natural state that we come in, but I know Kevin, and you can probably speak to this too, is you do get really heady about scenes and shows and thinking about through things. Just because you play from your gut doesn't mean you aren't in your head sometimes. Yeah,
I'm also analyzing the scene, but in level 2, we're all supposed to be like fluent with a heart player play style. That's where I really struggled, because all of my scenes were either like therapist and patient or like doctor and patient, and like I would always shy away from doing scenes that were very deep. And I'm not sure if being an X factor is a personality thing or not, but I have a much easier time analyzing scenes and doing head player stuff and trying to fix things and planning out beats than trying to figure out an emotional hook for a scene, if that makes any sense. Like if I have to pull in my bag of tricks and do something that I learned in level 3 or level 4 or whatever, it's probably going to be more of a head player thing. That's just because my personality does that. But there might be X factors out there that would go toward a more emotional character beat to heighten or fix the scene. So that's just me.
Kevin, I'm also curious about the growth aspect. Is there something that you have tried to consciously shift about the way you play, whether
Yeah, I'm trying to
you
be
frame that
like-
as a head or a heart.
Oh, well, oh my God, Clint, I put you through hell for like 3 levels. I try not to shovel my plan for the scene down your throat, like with a jackhammer and make you do it. Yeah, there's more of like a back and forth thing, and like gradually letting the scene evolve in an organic way instead of like one person having a plan and just imposing it.
Because your performance style with one of your team's friendship mystery solvers, right, is very much like set Kevin loose and then let Jay react to it. Is very much like the gist of that show. Is just Kevin cut loose, right? But then when you're doing something like Crystal Method is where I'm really interested. Is that's, you know, you're playing with Crystal Jackson, who's an incredible heart player. And just has so much emotion that she's pulling, but she also, I think, also verges on an X, but she's kind of a heart X, and I think you're kind of a head X. Guys, I have such theories. I can get really deep into this.
Oh yeah, no, I think we all come in hybrids.
Yeah, I think there are. Yeah, because it's difficult to put any one person in a box of any kind.
I've known exactly one 100% X player, and I hope I never play with him again.
But your play style with Crystal is very different than your play style with Jay. Like, what is your headspace like before like a Crystal Method show that leads you to more of like a hearty, kind of grounded show rather than something like Friendship Mystery Solvers, which is off the wall bonkers?
I'm not going to throw shit on Jay, and I love
never.
Jay with every fiber of my being, but the format of that show is that he leaves me on stage for at least a full minute to establish my character and establish the environment and do as much weird scene painting as I want. But when I start a scene with Crystal, she's there with me already, and I have to establish a situation that, you know, we're both in a room together and we're dealing with something together. Friendship Mystery Solvers, there's a lot of like detective TV show schlock involved, and there's always a dead body in the scene that I have to justify and explain the state of and things like that. But just having Crystal there with me immediately, I don't know, makes me make different decisions.
You find that that connection then with your scene partner is really like something that affects your headspace during a show?
Yeah, and I'm looking to see what she's doing and like how she's carrying herself and her face, her endlessly expressive face. Like, what is she telling me right now? Yeah, and yeah, that, I guess that makes me a little bit more of a heart player, but I don't think I'm ever going to be a heart player.
No, because I do think you play very hearty with that. I think Clint plays very hearty under the influence. I'm just curious as to where and when we find ourselves in those sort of hybridy, like where we cross our natural path to something that we're trying to do. That's really
absolutely. So for our Twitch viewers, I want to say that we're using X Factor and Wildcard kind of interchangeably, right? It's that the craziness that somebody brings into a stage. And we do have a question having to do with pre-show anxiety.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, so do you guys think that a hard player versus a head player versus a Wildcard X Factor feel differently before a show? Maybe some do feel anxiety and some don't feel anxiety at all? Maybe somewhere in between?
That's a great question.
It never goes away.
I don't. Yeah, go ahead, Tina.
No, please. No, you go ahead first, please.
I don't think it's aligned with head X heart, like pre-show anxiety, because I never really get anxious about the show. However, I think if you were to stereotype it, the heads would get more in their head before a show and get more anxious. But yeah, just based on the spread of students that I've seen come up, because the students are the most transparent about their anxiety before a show. The pros hide it better if they have it.
And they definitely have it.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think that there's a correlation between where you're typed in pre-show anxiety.
I'm not entirely sure it's type to type either, but I do know that the way that I typically like to warm up before a show is different than I think a lot of improv theaters or improv people will tell you. Is like, I don't particularly like pre-show warm-ups, which is an uncommon opinion among theater owners and professionals in general, is that I'm not crazy about them. I find value in them. I can intellectually tell you so many values that you find in pre-show warm-ups, and we always do them in our classes to make a transition from street to stage. But before a show, what I like to typically do, and I do think this aligns with a heart perspective a little bit, is connect with my teammates, right? It's eye contact. Where are you? What's going on in your life? How's things going? How's that meeting at work go? Oh, are you stressed about that? Because knowing where my players are before a show, and it's not my pre-show anxiety, but it's taking a temperature read of the room. Like, what are we all bringing to the stage with us from our lives that's going to affect the show in whatever way, shape, or form? If I know, Kevin, that you're really stressed about school stuff, but I probably will veer away from being a teacher in a scene because I think you're going to bring some of your real stress into a scene.
None of my teachers are assholes, so there's not really a whole lot of stress that's going to go into it. I mean, if you want to do a teaching scene, Tina Jackson.
I don't. I've done that scene already. Okay. No, my warm up pre-show and my anxiety pre-show is more about being in the moment with my friends, being in the moment with my people. Is where I want to be. If one of my teammates, and I have had a teammate in particular who is all over the place before a show, and so my pre-show is like, come with me, stay with me, be with me, focus up here to make that transition. Just because my anxiety is just whatever I can feel from her. So.
Hey, folks, I think we're out of time.
Already?
Yeah, already. That was fantastic.
Oh no!
I can go
we need to push this to 45 minutes. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. I can even crack the surface.
Yeah, exactly.
What? Our host has a free Zoom account. Oh my god! What?
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, please.
Well, I wanted to thank my panel today. Tina Jackson, our heart player. Thank you so much for doing this. Appreciate it.
Anytime.
Kevin McCormick, our Wildcard X Factor player. Thank you so much for wonderful insight. And Clint Taylor. Oh yeah. Thank you so much for being a head player. Appreciate it. We are going to be doing this again on Wednesday, same channel, same time, only Wednesday's topic is going to be consent. A really, really important topic that everybody in improv should ponder, think about, and understand. My panelists, do you guys want to give a final statement, anything at all?
I think, oh man, I don't know how to make one final statement.
Yeah.
One time, very late at night, we drew on the whiteboard a diagram of head, heart, and X factor. Clint will tell you it was a triangle, right? It's not a line. It's not a binary. It's a spectrum, right? But inside this, oh, he's drawing it, thank God. But inside this diagram, we all fall, I think, somewhere between head, heart, and X. I think a true heart and a true head and a true X are not actually serving themselves or their teammates very well. We're all somewhere in the middle. Thank you. Love this. Yeah. There you go.
Exactly.
Head, heart, and gut. Did you make a gut?
No,
that's a brain. That's my brain.
That's your brain. It's a very long brainstem. It was good fun. So we all fall in this spectrum somewhere between head, heart, and X. And I think the closer you can get to the center probably is where the perfect improviser lies, is following your gut, understanding the big picture and staying in the moment. And I think we're all striving to hit that center point at some point. But generally we fall somewhere on the line between two or maybe three of them. And so I think I think there's a long way to grow for probably every improviser. I know I'm still on a spectrum that doesn't have me at the full center, and I will work on that for the rest of my life, I'm sure.
Now, what I'll say about that is that I wouldn't go for the center because we plotted improvisers that we thought met the center requirement, and they are not the most entertaining. Are they amazing improvisers? Yes. Do they do almost is every move they make the right move? Just about. However, I think the most entertaining people are the performers that are like in the extremes of the triangle.
I think that's true. I think that was part of our conversation as well. I'm very intrigued by this diagram, and head, heart, and X is something I have spent just half an hour is just not enough time.
No, is it?
We scratched the surface, but someone has a free Zoom account, so I'm sorry, viewers.
We don't. This is a paid account.
Why is it only so long?
I was like, basically, we're gonna stop the stream, but we're all gonna keep talking.
Yeah. Our Patreons get the after show conversation.
Oh yeah, exactly. All right, Tina, what happens at the end of the show?
What happens at the end of the show is we thank everybody for coming. Yeah. But I want to say that if you're in San Antonio, please, by all means, when this is all over, have their stage. If you are not in San Antonio, if you're watching this from some other place, most major U.S. cities have an improv theater or two. Check those out. Improv theaters are such a great way to connect with people on a lot of different levels. I'm so glad for all the connections I've been able to make through the theater and meet some of the most interesting people in the entire world, I think. Find your way into an improv class, give it a try. It's not as scary as you think. If you are able right now during this really difficult and crazy sort of financial period, to be able to support small business in the arts, that's a really important thing to be doing right now. Because I'm gonna go ahead and speak on behalf of all improv theaters. I think probably we're all struggling right now. So if you can hit that donate button either on the Bexar Stage website or wherever you are, find your local theater and donate something right now to ensure that the arts have a home once this is all over. I know we would all really appreciate the support of this industry because it's so vital to laugh. And that's all we're trying to do. But it's hard when we're all worried about money. That's where I'm in my head, you know. So support the small business and the arts wherever you can right now. And when this is all over, support small business and the arts. I'm gonna keep saying it. That's it. That's all.
Wonderful. So again, don't forget to tune back here Wednesday of next week at 6 o'clock. I'm sorry, Wednesday this week at 6 o'clock. Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Thanks for having us, Rick.
Thank you so much. And thank you for everybody that joined. Appreciate it.